Good afternoon, everyone. I, Shweta Lalwani, extends a very warm welcome to all of you at the momentous occasion marking the mega launch of the Borg Energy India Extra Plus Home Series and Extra Farm Series in North India, Borg Energy India. Sir, I would request you all to please do the honors of lamp lighting. Mr. Sivakumar.
Chairman and Managing Director, Borg India and Asia, Dr. Bose Agustina, Independent Director, Borg Incorporation, Mr. Joseph, Director, Global Business Acquisition, Vice President, Global Business Acquisition, Director, Mr. Gideon Stanley, Officer from US Embassy, all new Borg associates, distributors, dealers and channel partners who have come from different states in northern India, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. On this wonderful day, I have great pleasure in welcoming each and every one of you to this august function on the occasion of the launch of Borg's Extra Plus Home Series products and the Extra Plus Farm Series to the North Indian markets.
And now we would like to felicitate our delegates. Let's welcome Mr. Boaz Augustin Jr., Chairman and Managing Director, Asia Pacific Borg Energy India. We would like to felicitate you, sir. Mr. T.S. Krishnamurthy, Director, Borg Energy India. Ms. Olga Ford, Commercial Officer, U.S. Consulate. Mr. Joseph Fournier, Director, Borg Inc., USA. Mr. Gideon Stanley, Director, International Business Acquisition. Mr. Jeff Craig, Director, International Business Acquisition. Mr. John L. Ricks, Vice President, International Business Acquisition.
Thank you very much. I bring greetings from Houston, Texas, and the United States of America. And I want to thank the people of India for such a warm welcome, and you are a great host. All of us who came from Houston have marveled at the food here. And the only thing, yeah, we're going to get a great applause from those that came with me from Houston. The food here is great. The only thing greater than the food is the people of India. You guys are the greatest hosts in the world, and we just thank you for welcoming us the way that you have. Let me start just a bit with my background, just to give you an idea of why I personally, and the whole team in Houston, is so excited about Borg Energy and about solar energy. As was said in my bio, my background is the energy industry. I started in the energy industry in 1982. And for more than 25 years since then, I have spent building, developing, and managing electric power plants. Now, for the most part, those power projects were conventional power, natural gas-fired and coal-fired power plants. During my stint as mergers and acquisition manager for Destec Energy, I had the opportunity in the 1990s, I think it was like 1993 or 1994, to evaluate a solar farm. Now, the ultimate decision was to pass on the farm. We didn't buy that project 20 years ago, primarily because the technology did not match the cost. But I remember saying to myself and also to the entire team, this is the wave of the future. And if you understand where I come from and what we did in conventional power, when we managed a power plant and looked at the entire operating cost, 70 to 80% of the operating cost of a conventional power plant is the cost of fuel, natural gas or coal. And when you think about that, 70 to 80% of what it costs to run that plant is your fuel cost. Compare that to solar energy, where the price of fuel is zero. It's very clear why we all thought this is the wave of the future 20 years ago. Like I said, at that time the technology was not where it is today, but we knew at some point in time it would be there. And that is primarily the reason I am with Borg Energy, and I am excited to be a part of the solar revolution, because this is, like I said, this is the type of energy that the world is going to experience from here on forth. Now, when you look at, again, why, it's not only the fact that the cost of fuel is zero, the sun shines, but when you look at all forms of green energy, you have hydropower, you have wind power, and you have solar. Solar is the most consistent form of green energy that exists. All of you know the wind is great, zero fuel cost, but how often does the wind blow? Water, again, zero fuel cost, but you have to have an incline, and you have to have running water and hope that there's no drought. So again, you have a limitation on hydropower. The sun, however, sun has come up every day of my life. And every day of my life in the future, I believe. The sun is the most consistent form of green energy that exists. And that excites me. And that is why we are excited to be a part of this. The other thing, and this is a third application, mainly for commercial. When you think about commercial applications for energy, now, when you look at what our target market is, and I want to go through this fairly quickly, but I want you to pay close attention to the nations that we're looking at and also why. And let me start with the why. The why, like I said, the first one is the need. But another issue is population. The population centers around the developing world. Those who have large populations and that have a large amount of disposable income. Those are some key elements that cause us to focus on certain markets. And some of the markets that we are looking at are in Africa, Nigeria, Tanzania, Kenya, Ghana, Senegal, and Egypt. In South America and the Caribbean, there are countries like the Dominican Republic, Brazil, Suriname, and Colombia. In Asia, Bahrain, and last on the list, and most importantly, India. And let me tell you why I put India last, because I want to talk just a little bit about India and let you know that my colleagues, Jeff Craig, for instance, is going to give you a lot more detail about why we are so excited about the Indian market. The Indian market is actually the #1 target on our list of international business opportunities. We've had the most success in India. India is actually the model, the template that we are using and going to use to bring Borg into the rest of the developing world. So you have a great deal to be proud of and a great deal to look forward to. And we look forward to working with India. I'm going to give the presentation back to the MC. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope you enjoy it. Please pay close attention to my colleagues, both Jeff Craig and Joseph Fournier. Joseph is going to be bringing some great details about some innovations, technological innovations that we're working on back in the States. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My background is I have a BSc in electrical engineering and I have a Master of Science in plasma physics, which is associated with nuclear engineering. When I was a graduate student at the University of Alberta, I'm a Canadian citizen. I was involved with the instrumentation and the algorithms on the CANDU, which is the Canadian deuterium reactor. And as I was working on the Canadian deuterium reactor, I was also involved in research and development on a particular type of nuclear technology, which is now called a pebble bed nuclear reactor, and it's a Generation 4 product. Prior to 2008, I had the nuclear power project fully funded by UBS Bank and Morgan Stanley, which my funding disappeared in 2009 when all these CDOs and all that off-ledger stuff went south. And there was a resurgence in the sustainability environment. There was a resurge of interest in nuclear power until the accident at Fukushima. When the accident occurred at Fukushima, all of the people who were involved in the nuclear industry around me kind of abandoned ship, and they went into other industries, and I was already involved in solar technology and medical technologies and the construction business. So that's what brought me to Borg. I was called by a friend of mine, excuse me, and he introduced me to Dr. Boaz, and this is how I came to be here. So, I've been working on research and development of the solar panels and excuse me, the strategic partners that we're working with at Borg Energy is Centrust, Thermoneutronics, and 3TM Technologies. And the academic environments that we're working with is Texas A&M, Colleen near Fort Hood, Texas, New Jersey Institute of Technology, and MIT. And Dr. Mitra at the New Jersey Institute of Technology is a native of India. And the main crux of my little lecture here is the solar radiation spectrum and how we're trying to develop products in the nanotechnology that can absorb radiation in the UV sector of the radiation spectrum. If you look at this chart here, you'll see where it says UV and then visible and then infrared. Our solar panels now absorb the energy mainly in the visible spectrum, and the nanotechnology, which our R&D on, is capable of absorbing the energy in the in the infrared region. The carbon nanotubes are fullerene project. They're cylindrical fullerenes, and a fullerene is a molecule. It's a huge molecule made essentially of carbon atoms. And the nanotubes have extremely high conductivity, and they are extremely strong. They're a fiber about 5 millimeters in diameter would have the strength of a piece of rebar about 1 inch in diameter. And that this chart here shows you the conductivity of the nanotubes. And what we are working on, and we're thinking in terms of a two-year lifetime or lifespan of R&D to develop a technology that we can epitaxially grow on top of the existing. We would do the substrate of the solar panel at the R&D lab and then put on this layer of carbon nanotubes, which would increase the absorption by 30 to 40% over what it exists today. So, and this is only one of the technologies that we are working on. And after a 2-year lifespan or time span in Conroe, where the R&D center is going to be, we will be bringing the R&D project over to India to provide local R&D on advanced panel technology and then also advanced energy storage devices. There are many avenues of energy storage, but in order to develop a microgrid in India, we will have to develop an energy storage device that can run us through the slack times when there is no solar available. So this, excuse me. This this slide essentially shows you how a light panel absorbs photons and creates electrical current. I was told I needed to make this short. I probably am running over time, so I'm going to give the microphone to Jeff Craig, and he's going to give you some of the economics of our technology. Thank you.
Just want to spend a little bit of time just talking about the market and just looking at a high level in terms of where we are going to be, let's say, in 10 or 15, 20, 30 years from now. One of the companies that we track and follow quite closely, obviously, is a large conglomerate, ExxonMobil. And when we look at how they're looking at the world in terms of energy consumption, we see it's quite amazing that 75% of the world's population is focused in this part of the world. But not only that, we're going to see approximately 2 billion people added to the existing population today. So this represents tremendous growth. Here we see about 300 million people added in India, approximately 800 million people in Africa. But more importantly, the energy usage of these people is actually going to double on a per capita basis compared to what it is today. So the opportunity in order to deliver energy and the way that energy is delivered, it's not business as usual, and it requires an innovative approach. What's interesting also as we look at India specifically is the youth in the country. And these the people here are very technologically savvy. They want appliances. They want phones, etc. They're a mobile population. They want to work at home. They want to have reliable power. So this type of solution, which Borg is bringing to the market, we believe is going to be an absolute, fundamental requirement. We also see that the growth, not only in the population and in the energy usage and consumption, but the GDP, the national economy, is fundamentally tied to electricity generation and electricity consumption. Now, when we look at the amount of investment that is going to be required in order to make this happen, we're looking at a number that, if you can believe this, is north of $10 trillion. And just to make this happen in India alone, we're looking at a number that is slightly above $2 trillion. Now, the way this has typically been done is either through direct investment through the government or large corporations. But that, according to our calculations, is only going to suffice, 1 to 1.5 trillion of that estimate. So there is a funding gap. And so where is that money going to come from? How is this problem going to be solved? And we believe that the opportunity here is actually to tap directly into the consumer and have them invest directly with us to be able to to provide this electricity. We've seen the economics in terms of the actual panel prices in the system drop over 60% to less than $3 per watt, American dollars per watt, as of last year. We're looking at huge job creation opportunities. In the United States, we have over 100,000 solar workers today, and those aren't just manufacturing jobs. So when we're looking at growing this market in India, we're looking at financial services, we're looking at installation, maintenance, retail. There's a whole value chain that doesn't exist that's coming to market, so it's a great opportunity. Now, if we look more closely at the country opportunity here in India, we see that 70% of the population is focused in rural areas, which is very unique. And a third of Indians today do not either have access to reliable electricity, and in some cases they do not have running water. With the importation of coal, of natural gas, of oil, being well over 50% in every case, something needs to change here in order for the population to be more adequately satisfied in terms of energy production and consumption. What we also look at is that in the context of developed nations and developing nations, India is actually has an energy intensity or a per capita energy usage that's lower on the list than we might expect. So while the economy is growing, the population is growing, the rate at which the energy intensity is growing we would like to see it higher. It would be more it would show more fundamental economic robustness. What we also look at here in India is a very large and fast-growing and well-funded middle class. In the 2015-2016 time period, we're looking at a 20% increase, well over 50 million households. So just capturing even a small percentage of that market is a huge opportunity. These are people that own air conditioning, televisions, microwaves. They have access to credit. These are exactly the kind of consumers that would be interested in this kind of product. The market has been divided really into two segments. One is a large-scale, more utility-scale segment versus small-scale. Borg is uniquely positioned in that it can address both. However, with that said, there's the fastest-growing and I would say the most disruptive segment is clearly the off-grid, the microgrid, the kind of the market that the Astra Plus would address. What we also see is that whereas the market initially took off in Europe, in countries like Germany and Italy, and in Asia, in countries like Japan, the growth is going to definitely come from Asia and Africa going forward. What we also look at is the Indian economy. Whereas the qualification for a BRIC country in terms of global economies has been economic growth of over 8%. Growth in India last year was just under 5%. So the report was sluggish. And when we look at India's global competitiveness as measured by the World Economic Forum, it's fallen. And we also look at power outages, like the power outage that occurred in 2012, where almost 10% of the global population was in the dark for an extended period of time. This situation is unacceptable. There is an answer to this problem. We believe that Astra Plus is the solution. With that said, the future and the forecast is for India to actually become the third largest economy in the world, to overtake Japan. The only way this will happen is for an energy miracle. Without the energy, the power and the production, the rest of the economy will suffer, and it will not be as competitive as other nations. So this is an exciting opportunity. So, in the morning when I get up, I pray, Lord, put me in the right place at the right time. I believe we are at the right place at the right time. I believe that there is a historic opportunity for us to work together to actually not only change the way that electricity is generated and delivered, but actually it's an opportunity for the developing nations to lead the developed world. Once we get this technology to the customers, once we see the scale, once we see the economies of scale, once this model is validating itself. We also see with the National Solar Mission and TIPA, these are game changers. These are other areas of leadership that India is taking a remarkable role. So in conclusion, what we're doing here is something that's not only going to reduce the cost of electricity and increase the reliability of the supply, it's going to improve the lives of millions of people. So this is an area that we're proud to focus on. And with that, I'll introduce Dr. Boaz Augustine, the Chairman and Managing Director of Asia Pacific.
Thank you for that. And this is our vision. We want to strive to deliver power to the people by connecting people and technology towards an empowered living. And the mission is to inspire, innovate, integrate for a life-changing experience, offering a glorious tomorrow. And just a brief note of what is available right now or currently in the market, in the Indian market. We have many companies which is offering solar inverters. There are a few companies which are into solar UPS, and there are few companies who are specifically making or marketing solar panels, and there are very few, or I would say almost no turnkey solution from a trusted brand on the domestic scale. And there are many projects which are made to sell and not to last, and there are no real data or the index to measure what the energy is generated. This is what is currently available in the market. What exactly Borg is trying to do right now, or what is doing right now, is we are creating a new category which is called micro power plant. It is not an inverter vertical, it is not a power backup vertical, rather it is a personalized power plant. That's what we started with. We are trying to give a need, which is the power, which is for the people, and we are trying to personalize this power for each homes. So this is micro power plant, and this is possible right now in every homes, and we are offering with 4 models. The basic model is 500 watts, and the other one is 1000 watts, which is a 1000 ZXI series, and this comes up with a communication port, and the next one is 1500, and it's again fully loaded with 1500 watts of solar panels, and the ultimate model is 2500, which is capable of running an air conditioner, and it is again fully loaded. And this has been widely accepted in southern part of India, and with the response that we have got, we thought of getting little more aggressive into the Indian market, and that's why we are standing here in the capital city to give this power to the people. And I just want to demonstrate a few working cases of how these product works, because these are not just units. We call that as PCU, like CPU. These are power control units. This has intelligence inbuilt to it, and it can act based on the situations. When there is a full solar which is available and the battery is fully available, it provides the load directly to the load, and it cuts the grid supply, so that there is a direct savings in the cost. So wherein we are directly using the energy that is generated to the load. The first thumb rule of green energy is try to use the power directly without trying to store it. So this first thumb rule is being directly applied with this logic, where we are trying to not to store it because the battery is full, and we are trying to cut the grid because the supply is for the load is already pre-generated in the grid, in the SPV. So this is a very classic example of how it works when the battery and the grid is also there. However, the solar generation is enough to handle the load. This is another case, where the solar is full and the battery is discharged. However, you have the grid which is available. So here in this case, it works like it takes the power which is required for the load from the solar and parallelly charge the battery with the power which is generated from the solar. However, it is also taking the differential current alone from the grid. So which means you have a direct savings in your electricity bill, because it is taking only the differential current which is required for the load. This is another classic example which works based on that requirement. The other one is the grid failure. This is another beautiful example in the Indian context, where every day people suffer with grid unavailability. However, here the battery is fully charged. In this condition, it tries to use the solar as well as the battery towards the load, wherein the EB is totally cut short. Like here, it takes the differential current alone from the battery, and the main supply is from the solar. This is another example of how it is intelligently and effectively utilized. And the other example is about, there is a very little solar power which is available and you have no grid, however the battery is fully charged. Here the battery is directly utilized and it takes the differential current with the little availability of solar which is available based on the load. This is a practical example of how the system works in our house. And this is another example where the grid is failed and there is no solar supply, and this is a typical inverter operation. So that's why we say that we don't need an inverter if you have a Borg power plant, because it can also act as a inverter. So here it typically works like an inverter, where it gets the supply from the battery. And this is another example where the battery is fully discharged, however we have the solar as well as the grid which is available. Here it is trying to take the load directly from the grid, and since the battery is not there, it's also parallelly trying to connect the AC current to the battery, so that the battery is also parallelly charged. This is again a classic example of how it acts like a inverter. The most interesting point that we have to see here is it also acts as a stabilizer, because any output which is connected with the system, the voltage is stabilized with plus or minus 25% of 220 volt, because the quality of the power that we are getting here is not to the expectation. That's the reason most of our electronics are being affected. So here this system by default gives a quality current wherein it neutralizes the voltage based on the requirement. This is another advantage of having a Borg power plant, apart from generating your own power. So we don't need a stabilizer and you don't need an inverter. And here is another example where the solar availability is very low and the battery is discharged and you have a load and you have no grid. Here whatever we generate, it tries to parallelly charge the battery as well as try to supply for the load. And this is a holiday mode where you have everything available except the load. So here it turns everything off to protect and insulate you from any hazards. So it's a shield, it acts as a shield here. So what is exactly inside this box, inside this PCU? It has an independent, we have reduced the noise by 15 decibels, and we have also increases the solar utilization by 15%, which is a very big number. And the other one is we have increased the display size to 400%, and the design is IP21 and IP22 standards with air cooled and energy efficient system. It can work from -10 to +55 degree, and it is tested by TUV Rainland under IEC 668 standards, and self-consumption is reduced by 15%. Again, it is a very big boom, wherein the self-consumption of the PCU we have brought it down to less than 20 watts. And again, this is one of a great improvisation, a turbocharger, which is increased by 50%, which means that you can charge your battery in double the time, in double the time faster than what you do. So like, if it takes 2 hours earlier, with this new Astra Plus, like, you can charge it in 1 hour. So, and these are the future ready communication systems. The ports which is available with the systems are RS-232, USB and RS-485, and with these ports you can control the system anywhere in the world, and you can also monitor the system. This is how the monetary panel system, which is available in the online, in the software, will be looking like. You can absolutely have the data that you need at that particular point in time, whether you can find out what is the load generated at that particular point, whether you have the AC charge, whether the grid is available. So this red and green, distinguish. If it is red, the grid is failed, or there is no solar, will be indicated by the colors, and you can exactly measure what is the total generation at that particular point in time. And one should never forget that whatever we generate, as I said, in the solar or any clean energy, has to be utilized. The generation is directly based on the utilization. We should consume it, only then the generation happens. If someone is not consuming that, the generation is not going to happen. So the smart and the effective utilization of these products needs supports like this, so that someone can monitor it remotely, and based on this they can increase the load based on the availability. And this is purely tailor-made for the Indian homes, because we are not just trying to sell any product, rather we are trying to sell power here. So here we are very concerned about each and every part that is associated during the installation and after the installation. So including the combiner box, the PMS, and PMS is another important point that I need to touch base here. PMS is the panel mounting structure, which is based on anodized aluminum, and this is designed in Italy, and this has a very big advantage when you talk about reaching homes, that too for the numbers that we are projecting, and reaching the mass and empowering people, because this, by having brought in this innovation, we were able to reduce the timeline, which is generally in the solar inverter industry, which is the other industry, generally people take 15 to 30 days for every installation. By doing this innovation, we were able to cut short the time to 3 to 4 hours. So every installation in any home, in any terrace, can happen within 3 to 4 hours with this innovation of PMS. Without doing any tailoring, this can be fixed, and the angle can be tilted accordingly based on the landscape. So the other important product that we want to add value to the Indian subcontinent is the Farm Series. The Farm Series is a very simple, very small, yet a very powerful system. This is based off of a military technology, and this can withstand any weather and any temperature. And one we should never forget is it can work in any motor, in any AC motor. We doesn't need any specific or any special motors to make it workable. So this is one of the natural advantages this product is having, and it also have a key where we can program the key and we can remove it, so that no one can reprogram it. So for the protection, Shiv, can you help to show that how the key works, because I'm not able to move from here. She will show how we can program the controller and we can remove the key.
We have the digital control here, which is removable, where this can be programmed, and then after once it is set, it can be taken out so that it is not disturbed again, and then we can directly use it. The head can be as high as up to 600 feet from a bore well as well as from a surface pump. And this is a unique design. We have the the entire heatsink provided at the back, and a very small unit, and this has got the capacity to work from 3 HP up to about 25 HP. Pumps can be utilized with this control unit.
Thank you, Shiv. So this is a very simple innovation that we try to figure it out, because having such units in the rural part, it has to be programmed and it has to be safeguarded. So this is a product that we are launching for the agriculture, particularly for the irrigation, and it works with any AC pumps, as I said, and it has a high reliability as it has an MPPT, and it has a frequency adaptive mechanism, and it can have an unattended and an intelligent monitoring system. And it has a high speed synchronization converter and multi-setting options. As I said, like, if it is a sunny day, we can prefer for a PV priority, and if it is not a sunny day, it's a rainy day, wherein you have a power which is available, so you can also parallelly work with your AC power and you can switch on the priority. And it has an isolated and pure sine wave technology and intelligent no load auto shutdown, which I was talking about, the holiday mode, which is applicable here also, and it has an LCD and LED display mode and wide input range of long working hours, and it has a friendly alarm system and online protection functions. So this is a very basic value addition that we are introducing in the early stage of India launch, which is specifically towards irrigation, and we are planning specifically for a few farming belts in the northern part of India to be projected for these projects. And Astra commercial series are the ranges which is limited up to 500 kilowatts, and we have a special division which is called the EPC division, which handles the finance as well as the EPC for mega scale projects, which is the utility scale projects, which I'm not going to discuss over this discussion. And as we said, like, innovation plus revenue is equal to value enterprise. We want to act as a value enterprise in the Indian subcontinent, and it needs to be a microeconomy for the people around. And just to share, the next 150 days plan for the India will be like, reach 40,000 homes or power 40,000 homes, and open 220 power plays, and these are few snapshots of the power play opening, and 8 apex distributor based on the states, 166 distributors, 16 CFAs, 7,200 dealers. Again, it is a very big challenge. Having said, it is 150 days left, and power 500 SMEs. Considering the huge schedules that we have for the requirement from the SMEs, and these are the new power plays looks, which you can see in the northern part of India. This is how it will look like. These are exclusive experience zones for Borgs, and people can walk in as family, have a look, touch and experience the product, see the demo of the product, and they can buy it from here. These products are also available in easy installments so that people can go, and we are making the product affordable to everyone. And future projects from Borg, like, Borg smart homes, which is under progress. Like what Joseph was saying, we are also working on the nanospace technology for increasing the efficiency of the solar panels from, which is around 19% now, to close to 80%. I think we are the only company in the world, we can proudly say that we are working on the nanotechnology in this industry, and we are expecting this to launch in 2016 globally. And I'll ensure that during this global launch, India is playing a vital role, and India will also be, be participating in the initial launch of this nanotechnology. And Borg smart homes this is again future-ready projects which we are planning to launch in the coming days, where we can control everything which is connected with the wire inside your home, whether it is entertainment or electricity, from Borg. And this is a supercharger which we are working on, which is a parking lot where the automobile industry is going through a major shift in paradigm. So where you can charge your automobiles with a parking lot from a supercharger. It can charge in 20 minutes, where you can have a 350-kilometer mileage. So we are working on a technology very similar to that, and we can see it soon once the automobile industry is taking that maturity in this part of the world. And with this, I want to thank you for the opportunity which is given. And as we always believe in our DNA, it is the smallest of the ideas which will change the life forever. And we strongly believe that it will change the life of every people in this country. And we always are dedicated to bring power to the people. Thank you.
So finally, the time has come when we unveil our products, Borg Extra Plus Home Series and Borg Extra Farm Series Solar Power Plant. Borg Extra Farm Series and Borg Extra Plus Home Series. Thank you, sir.